Is an IEP really the golden ticket we've been told it is? You've probably heard all the promises that this individualized education plan will miraculously turn your child's life around. But let's be honest, have you actually seen this happen? Have you seen a kid's life genuinely improve in a lasting way because of an IEP? Probably not. And that's because the issue runs deeper than any single document can address. Stick around because we're about to pull back the curtain on a system that can set parents and kids up for a lifetime of struggle. Now, before we go any further, let's clear something up. This is not about blaming teachers or schools. In fact, they're victims of this flawed system just as much as our kids are. The real culprit? Bureaucracy. Fighting against it often feels like an uphill battle you're destined to lose. You won't believe what one mother told us about her decades-long struggle and why it left us speechless. Imagine fighting the school system for 20 years. Yes, you heard it right. 20 years. We spoke to a woman who has been doing exactly that. Her daughter is now 32, married, with children of her own. What was she trying to get from the school? Well, that's a good question, and we'll cover that in a moment. Why was she still fighting the school more than a decade later? She simply got stuck in a battle that couldn't be won and just kept fighting instead of moving on and enjoying her life. When asked why she was still fighting, she had no answer. She had never thought about it. And yet, the battle rages on. It makes you wonder, if fighting the school isn't the answer, well, what is? It's high time we discuss what no one else wants to talk about. The dark underbelly of IEPs and why you might be fighting the wrong battle. Now, before we dive in, let me make something crystal clear. I'm not saying IEPs are completely useless. What I am saying is that we need to broaden our perspective. We need to realize that the current approach is usually just papering over the real problem, and there may be a better solution. So if you're tired of running in circles and you want to know the real story behind IEPs and how to give your child lasting support, you won't want to miss what's coming next. First, let's break down what an IEP is and why they even exist in the first place. IEPs, or Individualized Education Plans, are personalized blueprints crafted to meet the unique educational needs of each student. It's a team effort involving parents, teachers, and specialists, all coming together to create what's supposed to be an individualized roadmap to success. Sounds promising, right? But here's the kicker. While these plans may aim for the moon, they often barely leave the ground. Many times, instead of focusing on the root problems a child faces, schools do just enough to get by, essentially warehousing the student in a one-size-fits-none situation. And it's easy to lay the blame on teachers and schools, but that's a misunderstanding. The issue isn't the educators who, by and large, entered this profession because they genuinely care about students. The real bottleneck is the system itself, which places undue burdens on teachers. Do you think they enjoy facing burnout while balancing the demands of standardized tests and multiple individualized education plans? The reality is that they don't. Even studies on teacher burnout, like those led by Christina Maslach on emotional labor, confirm that the problem is systemic. Teachers aren't just educators, they're also administrators, psychologists, and social workers, multitasking in roles that the system forces upon them. Add in the complexities of managing IEPs, and it becomes a recipe for stress and inefficiency. It's pretty hard to imagine an IEP being implemented well when the teachers are so overworked and stressed out. And that's not all. Even if you stick to all the IEP policies and do all things right, there are very high chances that your child still won't get the right support they need. Why? Because IEPs are accommodations and modifications. They're essentially band-aids, not cures. This assumes that the problem cannot be solved, while accommodations and modifications can act as a temporary scaffold. They're not a substitute for tackling the core issues head-on. Sadly, the school can't solve the core problem either, because the system ties their hands. Bureaucratic red tape, limited resources, and standardized testing pressures are just a few of the barriers preventing true in-depth support. Sean F. Reardon's work on the opportunity gap amplifies this. It shows that teachers often work in systems that are set up for them to fail, especially when it comes to meeting the diverse needs of their students. IEPs can become yet another task on a long to-do list, not because teachers don't care, but because the system doesn't provide the support they need to implement these plans effectively. This is where the issue of a one-size-fits-all approach comes in, as pointed out by Carol Ann Tomlinson in her work on differentiated instruction. The standardization often seen in educational systems, including IEPs, fails to consider the individual needs of each student, adding another layer of complexity to a teacher's already complicated role. So let's be clear. The problem is not with the teachers or even with the idea of providing special education through IEPs. The issue lies with a bureaucratic system that sets both teachers and students up for challenges rather than successes. It's a system that desperately needs reform, but until that happens, you have to consider other effective routes for your child. And that begets the question, what's a better alternative to IEPs? I know you're busy with work, other kids, and countless other commitments, but even with that, I can show you how to actually reduce your workload instead of adding to it. But trust me when I say your child will only get better if you actively invest your time and effort. Attending IEP meetings isn't going to get you there. So back to the woman who spent over a decade fighting the school and never got what she wanted. What was it that she wanted? She wanted her daughter to get more personal attention and help that would overcome the learning challenge instead of just papering over them. Things she could have easily done herself with a learning success system had it been around back then. It wasn't, but it is now. She spent countless hours when she could have just spent 15 minutes per day. Sort of ridiculous, right? Instead of being caught in a never-ending cycle, there's a more efficient method to consider. The key is occupational therapy, which we prefer to call educational therapy. This isn't a mainstream solution that you'll typically find in schools, but it's effective. You see, most American schools don't offer this kind of hands-on, tailored educational therapy. That's why we came up with the learning success system. So imagine all the time and effort you would invest in navigating the bureaucratic maze of getting an IEP. Now, think about redirecting that energy into a program designed to tackle the root issues hindering your child's learning. Sounds more productive, right? Our learning success system is crafted to tap into your child's unique abilities, enhancing their natural skills while addressing any underlying issues they may have with learning. No more band-aids. We're talking about real, lasting solutions here. It's an at-home, self-paced program tailored to fit into your busy schedule. Now, you might be wondering about the commitment. Yes, it requires a daily commitment, but we're talking about just 15 minutes a day. Other parents have found the time by reallocating just a fraction of their day, and they've discovered that as their child developed stronger underlying learning skills, homework became less of a struggle. In fact, their children began taking on tasks on their own, freeing up more time for the parents. If you're serious about finding a permanent solution for your child's learning challenges, just like so many other parents have done for their children, this should be a no-brainer for you. Still skeptical? Well, how about this? We offer a 15-day free trial. It's a chance for you to not only see how effective this system can be, but also get a feel for the kind of daily commitment it requires. You've got nothing to lose and everything to gain, so why not give it a shot? Sign-up link is in the description. Now, you might be considering professional occupational therapy, which, if available in your area, can easily cost a few thousand a month plus the time spent commuting. But here's the good news. Our solution allows parents to make a meaningful impact right at home without all those additional burdens. So, what's it going to be? Will you take the day off to search for the best therapy for your child, battle it out alongside all other parents trying to force the school to provide what it can't really do? Or will you use the link in the description and let the other parents wonder why your child is excelling while they just keep fighting a battle with no spoils to be won? It's your choice to make.